whistleblower comes forward and says El Paso ambulances are transporting COVID patients out of Mexico into the United States. We'll talk about it with my buddy Todd Bensman on the Hot Zone.
This is the Hot Zone. Engaging with the news in a whole new way, international war correspondent Chuck Holton brings insight into areas of crisis and lets you help those affected.
Hey folks, Chuck Holton here. Thanks for joining us on the Hot Zone. Today we're going to talk about the COVID crisis, specifically on the U.S. southern border. If we get a new president, you can bet that there's going to be a massive unbroken conga line of illegal migrants coming north out of Latin America. And they won't just be coming from Latin America, they'll be coming from all over the world. And we already have a big problem with that because although our borders are closed to all but essential traffic, we are seeing COVID patients from Mexico coming across into the United States. To talk to us about that is my friend Todd Bensman from the Center for Immigration Studies. Todd, thanks for being with us again. Tell me what you know about this whistleblower that came forward and is talking about what's happening in El Paso.
Sure. Well, the whistleblower that you're referring to is a paramedic for the El Paso Fire Department. One of many people who have come forward to talk about this, by the way, he's not alone, discussing how the entire fleet of the El Paso Fire Department's ambulances are being called to the port of entry, lining up, picking up Mexican citizens who have called the ambulances in, who have COVID and want access to American hospitals. Why do they want access to American hospitals? Because the hospitals in Tijuana, Juarez, Nuevo Laredo, Nogales, all across the Mexican side of the line are collapsed with COVID patients. They are unprepared. They don't have nurses. Doctors are sick. And so they can't get treatment in their own hospitals. And if you have a visa or a border crossing card or just want to cross illegally between ports of entry, you can get through and get to an American hospital where you'll get treatment. And this has been happening from California, Arizona, and Texas mainly, but also in New Mexico, and is a significant stream supply of COVID patients that are filling the border state hospitals, not just at the border, but also throughout the interior of these states, because like in California, they're having to implement airlifts to keep those beds available on the border, airlifting patients to San Francisco, Los Angeles, Sacramento, also throughout Texas, as far as the Panhandle and Amarillo, Dallas, Houston, where you see red as well for hospitalization. So it's really,
I'm sure that doesn't cost very much. So I'm positive that the Mexicans that are coming across are paying for those airlifts to get themselves to San Francisco and that sort of thing, correct?
All on the U.S. dime. A lot of the hospitals, the Wall Street Journal is reporting without explaining that these are Mexican citizens primarily that are coming in for U.S. hospital care. Our American hospitals have been rejecting some of those patients, and it's a big controversy. There's lawsuits, there are fights going on because some of those hospitals rejected them for lack of insurance. But ultimately, everybody got care, and the U.S. Taxpayer will step in and save the day on all of those, Chuck.
As usual. And so what is the net effect that that's having for American citizens in those border regions and, even deeper, as you say, into the country, if they need care?
Well, one small anecdote comes from the whistleblowing paramedic in El Paso who complained that the entire fleet of ambulances were busy round the clock picking up Mexicans at the border, bringing them in, and were not available for victims of car wrecks or heart attack or whatever reason that people need to call an ambulance, they weren't available. So you've got not only that, but hospital beds that are, we worked very hard in this country to preserve for American citizens by staying indoors and being laid off from work and, uh, suffering, police interventions at churches and synagogues and that sort of thing in order to flatten the curve so that those hospitals are clear for American citizens to use when they need them.
And they
Not
have been.
happening. Yeah, not happening. Those hospitals are absolutely stuffed to the gills in California and Arizona and Texas. I mean, El Paso's having to ship patients throughout Texas in order to keep those beds clear. And a lot of them are Mexicans.
So are these primarily American citizens who happen to have Mexican citizenship, like dual citizenship, or are they illegal migrants that are jumping the fence, or both, or what?
It's the gamut. There are American expats, especially in Baja, in Mexicali, and in Baja in the peninsula, who decided to stay. They caught COVID, and they're American citizens, so they are coming across. But a great many of them are have dual citizenship or border crossing cards, or just simply claim that they're an essential worker when they come across. Or there's a loophole in the border closure that says you can come in for medical treatment. So you can just say, I'm coming in for medical treatment. I've got an appointment at the hospital, and we wave you through. But in addition to that, you also have a lot of illegal migrants coming through between ports of entry, jumping the fence, coming through the brush, swimming the river, and Border Patrol is picking them up and bringing them to the hospitals with COVID symptoms and getting sick themselves. Quite a few Border Patrol agents have died or have been taken offline. Hundreds have been taken offline for exposure to these immigrants. So it's really an all-encompassing problem down along the border with Mexico and all the states right now. But you won't hear about this in any regular media. Nobody will report about this.
Right, of course. What's your prediction for a Biden presidency when it comes to illegal migration?
Sure, I've written about this. There's a column I wrote called "The Biden Effect." But it's not just me. The most recent Department of Homeland Security threat assessment, which was released in October, I'm glad to have that, predict that there will be a mass migration crisis in 2021 because the Biden administration during the campaign messaged policies that are highly attractive to migrants in waiting or aspiring migrants throughout the world, Central America, which kind of go along the lines of there will be no detentions for the first 100 days of a Biden administration. Music to the ears of the entire world. No deportations, no detentions. You're going to be waved right through, and you're going to have welfare benefits and welcome packets and medical attention and all the rest. Absolute open to all comers on asylum claims, big loopholes that were used and abused, severely abused by millions of people coming across the border just to get past the Border Patrol. Trump shut a lot of those down. Biden's going to reopen all of them. And the biggest and greatest one, which he just reiterated recently, is that there will be a pathway to citizenship for all illegally present migrants in the United States. If you don't think that haven't heard that throughout the developing world, I got a bridge to sell you. So the grapevine is absolutely humming with news and information about this. They're just waiting for pandemic to lift, border closures, pandemic-related border closures in some of these countries to lift, and it'll be on.
Yeah, we've already seen a couple of these caravans try to get started out of Honduras and haven't made it very far because of the fear of COVID in Guatemala and Mexico and that sort of thing. But I'm sure that once that subsides, and even before that subsides, we're going to see a pretty sizable increase in illegal migration coming north. And that's going to affect you and me and the whole world. So job security for people like you and me.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. But we will see. Well, Todd Bensman, thank you very much for your time again. Always good to have you on the show. And we'll have you back again, I'm sure. And hopefully we can take a trip together sometime here very soon.
Hope so.
All right, man. Good talking to you.
The Hot Zone is produced by Amy Holton and Livefire Media. Copyright 2019.